The rain hammered against the stained glass windows of St. Augustine Cathedral, each drop a tiny fist demanding entry. I stood in the bride's room, staring at my reflection in the full-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back at me. The wedding dress was exquisite, all ivory silk and delicate lace, probably worth more than everything I had ever owned combined. It should have made me feel beautiful. Instead, it felt like a burial shroud. My name is Isabella Romano, and in 30 minutes I would walk down that aisle to marry a man I had never met, a man whose name was whispered in fear throughout the city, a man they called the Viper, Dante Moretti, the most ruthless crime boss on the East Coast. My hands trembled as I adjusted the veil for the 100th time. The silk was so fine it felt like touching air, imported from Italy, my father had said with pride, as if that made any of this better, as if expensive fabric could somehow compensate for the fact that he was selling me like livestock to settle his gambling debts. 6 months ago, I had been a graduate student at Columbia, studying art history, living in a cramped apartment with 2 roommates, working part-time at a coffee shop to make ends meet. My biggest worry had been my thesis on Baroque painting. Then my father, Anthony Romano, made the worst bet of his already disastrous gambling career. He lost $2 million to the Moretti family in an underground poker game. Money he did not have. Money he could never repay. The Morettis did not forgive debts. Everyone knew that. They collected what they were owed, one way or another, usually in blood. My father had come to me 3 months ago, his face gray, his hands shaking, and told me there was only one way out. Dante Moretti had offered to forgive the entire debt in exchange for my hand in marriage. I had laughed at first, a harsh, bitter sound that echoed in our kitchen. This was not the 19th century. People did not arrange marriages anymore. But my father was not joking. Neither was Dante Moretti. I had exactly 1 week to decide, marry the Viper or watch my father die. They found his business partner, Marco, floating in the East River 2 days after my father told me about the debt. A warning. A preview of what awaited my father if I refused. So here I stood, dressed in silk and lace, about to promise forever to a monster. The door opened behind me, and my mother entered. Francesca Romano had once been beautiful, but years of disappointment and worry had carved deep lines into her face. She wore a pale blue dress and a strained smile that did not reach her eyes. "You look lovely, Bella," she said softly, using the childhood nickname that now felt like mockery. "The dress is perfect." I turned to face her, anger burning through my fear. "How can you stand there and act like this is normal, like I am not being sold to a criminal?" Her smile faltered. "We have no choice, Isabella. You know that. There is always a choice." I shot back. "We could go to the police, leave the city." Something other than this. My mother's laugh was hollow. "Go to the police? And tell them what? That your father owes money to dangerous people? They cannot help us, Bella. And running," she shook her head. "The Morettis have connections everywhere. There is nowhere we could hide that they would not find us. So I should just sacrifice my entire life, my dreams, my future." She crossed the room and took my hands in hers. They felt cold, fragile. "Sometimes we do not get to choose our path, sweet girl. Sometimes we do what we must to protect the people we love." I pulled my hands away. Does he even know what I look like? Or am I just a transaction to him? Before my mother could answer, another knock came at the door. A woman entered, tall and elegant, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her eyes were sharp, assessing. "Miss Romano," she said, her voice crisp and professional. "I am Valentina Rossi, Mr. Moretti's executive assistant. He has sent me to ensure you have everything you need." "I have everything except a way out of this nightmare," I replied. Valentina's expression did not change. "Mr. Moretti wishes you to know that a car will be waiting after the ceremony to take you both to the reception. Your belongings have already been moved to his residence. You will not be returning to your apartment." The finality of her words hit me like a physical blow. My apartment, my life, my freedom, all of it already gone. Packed away without my permission. "I did not agree to that," I said, my voice rising. "Those are my things. You had no right." "The marriage contract your father signed gives Mr. Moretti every right," Valentina replied coolly. "I suggest you review the document. It is quite comprehensive." She pulled a thick envelope from her bag and handed it to my mother, who took it with shaking hands. "I will wait outside. The ceremony begins in 20 minutes. After she left, I ripped the envelope open and scanned the contract. Each page made my stomach sink further. Dante Moretti had not just bought a wife, he had bought complete control over my life, where I lived, where I went, even access to my bank accounts. In exchange for my father's debt forgiveness, I was giving up everything. I cannot do this, I whispered, the papers falling from my hands. Mama, I cannot. My mother gathered the scattered pages, her own hands trembling. Bella, please. Your father, he will die if you do not go through with this, and not quickly. These men, they make examples of people who cross them. Then let him face the consequences of his own actions, I said, surprised by the venom in my voice. Why should I pay for his mistakes? Because he is your father. Because family is all we have. My mother's voice broke. Because I am begging you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the desperation in her eyes. My father's gambling had destroyed her too. She had nothing left except the hope that somehow this arrangement might save what remained of our family. The organ music began in the cathedral, the opening notes of the processional. My time was up. I am sorry, my mother whispered, tears streaming down her face as she adjusted my veil. I am so sorry. A knock at the door. My father entered, looking older than his 53 years. He would not meet my eyes. It is time, Bella, he said quietly. I wanted to scream at him, to rage against the injustice of it all. But what good would it do? The debt was real. The threat was real. And in a few minutes, I would become Mrs. Dante Moretti whether I wanted to or not. I took my father's arm, my fingers digging into his jacket hard enough that he flinched. If I survive this, I hissed in his ear, I will never forgive you. Never. He nodded, his face gray. I know. The doors opened, and the cathedral stretched before me like a tunnel. Rows of guests turned to stare, their faces a blur. I did not know any of them. This was not my wedding. It was a business transaction dressed up in religious ceremony, and at the end of that impossibly long aisle, waiting at the altar, stood Dante Moretti. Even from a distance, his presence dominated the space. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit that fit him like a second skin. As I walked closer, forced forward by my father's steady pressure on my arm, I could make out more details. Dark hair, slicked back, a strong jaw, and eyes. God, his eyes were the coldest gray I had ever seen, like winter ice. He watched me approach with no expression on his face. No warmth, no curiosity, nothing. I was an acquisition to him, nothing more. The walk down the aisle felt endless. My heels clicked against the marble floor, each step taking me closer to my gilded cage. I kept my eyes fixed on a point just beyond Dante's shoulder, unable to meet that icy gaze. Finally, we reached the altar. My father placed my hand in Dante's, and I felt the first shock of contact. His hand was warm, strong, his fingers closing around mine with gentle but unmistakable possession. I forced myself to look up at him. Up close, Dante Moretti was devastating. Sharp cheekbones, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, and a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He was probably in his mid-30s, and every inch of him radiated power and danger. Isabella, he said, my name sounding strange in his deep voice. His accent was slight, Italian vowels softening the hard consonants. I did not respond. What was there to say? The priest began the ceremony, his words washing over me in a meaningless drone. I stood rigid, barely breathing, as we went through the motions. The vows felt like lies on my tongue. Love, honor, cherish. I felt none of those things for the man beside me, only fear and resentment. When it came time for the ring, Dante produced a platinum band set with diamonds that caught the light and threw rainbows across the stone floor. He slid it onto my finger with practiced ease, his thumb brushing against my palm in a gesture that might have seemed tender if I did not know better. With this ring, I thee wed, he said, his eyes never leaving my face. Then it was my turn. The ring I was supposed to give him felt heavy in my hand. I fumbled with it, my fingers numb, and he had to steady my hand with his own as I pushed the band onto his finger. You may kiss the bride, the priest announced. Dante's hand came up to cup my face, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in those cold eyes, something almost human. Then his mouth was on mine, claiming me in front of all these witnesses. The kiss was nothing like I had imagined a wedding kiss would be. It was not sweet or gentle. It was possessive, demanding, a brand of ownership that left no doubt about what this marriage meant. When he finally pulled back, I was breathless and furious, my cheeks burning with humiliation. The guests applauded, the organ played, and Dante Moretti took my hand and led me back down the aisle as husband and wife. The reception was held at Moretti's estate, a sprawling mansion in the suburbs that looked like something out of a movie. Manicured gardens, a fountain in the circular driveway, and enough security to guard a small country. Men in dark suits were positioned at every entrance, their watchful eyes tracking our arrival. Dante had not spoken a word to me during the car ride. He sat across from me in the back of the black sedan, making phone calls in rapid Italian, conducting business as if I was not even there, which, I supposed, I was not. Not really. I was just another asset he had acquired. The reception hall was opulent, dripping with crystal chandeliers and white roses. A string quartet played in one corner. Waiters circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like attending my own wake. Dante kept a hand at the small of my back as we moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations from people I did not know. His associates, his family, his world that I was now part of, whether I wanted to be or not. "Smile," he murmured in my ear, his breath warm against my skin. "You are supposed to be a happy bride." I turned to look at him, my smile razor sharp. "And you are supposed to be a groom, not a kidnapper." Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Careful." "Isabella, we are being watched. Let them watch," I shot back. "Let them see exactly what kind of marriage this is." His hand tightened on my waist, just enough to make his point. "We will discuss this later. Right now you will play your part. Or what? You will kill me like you kill everyone else who disappoints you?" His jaw clenched. "You know nothing about me." "I know enough," I replied. "I know what people call you. The Viper. I know the stories, the bodies, the blood." Dante's expression went completely blank, and somehow that was more terrifying than anger would have been. "You believe everything you hear? Should I not?" Before he could answer, an older woman approached us, her face warm with a genuine smile that seemed out of place in this gathering of criminals. "Dante, my boy," she said, reaching up to cup his face with maternal affection. "Finally married. Your mother would have been so happy." "Nonna." Dante's voice softened in a way I had not thought possible. "This is Isabella. Bella. This is my grandmother, Lucia Moretti." The old woman turned her sharp eyes on me, and I felt myself being assessed in a single sweeping glance. "Beautiful," she pronounced, "and strong. I can see it in her eyes. She will be good for you, Dante." "I doubt that," I muttered. Lucia laughed, a surprisingly youthful sound. "Ah, spirit. Even better." She leaned closer to me, lowering her voice. "Do not judge him too harshly, child. My grandson is not the monster people think he is." "With all due respect, Signora Moretti," I replied, "he forced me into this marriage to settle a debt." "What would you call that?" Her expression turned sad. "I would call it the way of our world. Not fair, perhaps, but not without reason." She patted my hand. "Give him a chance, Bella. You might be surprised." After she moved away, Dante guided me toward the head table. We sat in the places of honor, surrounded by his family and closest associates. I picked at the elaborate meal, my appetite non-existent. "You need to eat," Dante said quietly. "You have barely touched your food. I am not hungry. You will make yourself sick." "I am already sick," I replied. Sick of this farce. Sick of pretending. His hand found mine under the table, his fingers lacing through mine in a gesture that looked affectionate to anyone watching. But his grip was firm, controlling. "This is not a game. Isabella, these people, they need to see a united front. If they sense weakness, if they think this marriage is anything other than solid, it creates opportunities for our enemies." "Our enemies," I repeated. "I do not have enemies. I had a life, a normal, boring, safe life. You took that from me. Your father took that from you when he gambled away money he did not have." Dante's voice was cold, factual. I simply offered a solution that benefited everyone except me. He turned to look at me fully, his gray eyes unreadable. "You are alive. Your father is alive. You live in luxury now, want for nothing. Many women would consider that a fair trade. Many women did not have their entire future stolen from them." I shot back. The wedding cake was brought out, a towering creation of white fondant and sugar flowers. We stood together to cut it, his hand covering mine on the knife, smiling for the cameras. Another performance, another lie. When it was time for the first dance, Dante led me onto the floor. The band began to play something slow and romantic, completely at odds with the tension crackling between us. His arm went around my waist, pulling me closer than I wanted to be. I kept my eyes fixed on his shoulder, refusing to look at his face. "You dance well," he observed. "My mother insisted on lessons when I was young," I replied stiffly. We moved in silence for a few moments, his hand warm through the thin silk of my dress. Despite everything, he was a good dancer, confident and smooth, guiding me effortlessly across the floor. "This does not have to be a war, Isabella," he said quietly. "We are married now. We could try to make the best of it," I repeated. anger flaring hot in my chest. You want me to just accept this? To smile and play house with the man who bought me like property? I did not buy you, he corrected. I married you. There is a difference. Not from where I am standing. His jaw tightened. You are stubborn. You are a monster. Something flickered across his face. There and gone so quickly I almost missed it. Pain, maybe. Or anger. Then his expression went blank again. That emotionless mask sliding back into place. The song ended. Dante released me immediately, stepping back as other couples joined us on the dance floor. His associates came to claim dances with the bride, and I endured their touches and meaningless congratulations with gritted teeth. By the time the reception finally ended, I was exhausted, emotionally and physically drained. Dante appeared at my side as guests began to leave. The car is waiting, he said. It is time to go home. Home. The word felt wrong. Home was my cramped apartment with my roommates, not some mansion owned by a criminal. The drive to his estate took 40 minutes. Dante made more phone calls, his voice a low rumble in the darkness of the car. I stared out the window, watching the city lights give way to suburban streets, and finally to the private road leading to his property. The mansion was even more imposing at night, lit up like a palace. Security guards nodded to Dante as we passed through the gates. The car pulled up to the front entrance where a woman in a housekeeper's uniform waited. "Welcome home, Mr. Moretti," she said with a warm smile. Mrs. Moretti. The title sent a chill through me. Mrs. Moretti. That was who I was now. "This is Maria," Dante introduced. "She manages the household. If you need anything, you can ask her." Maria's smile was genuine, her eyes kind. "It is wonderful to meet you, Mrs. Moretti. I have prepared the master suite for you both. Both, of course." I was his wife now. That came with expectations. Dante must have seen something in my face because he said, "Show Isabella to her room, Maria. She will be staying in the East Wing, for now." Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by suspicion. Why would he give me my own room? What was his angle? Maria led me through the mansion, up a grand staircase, and down a long hallway. She opened a set of double doors to reveal a suite that was larger than my entire old apartment. King-sized bed, sitting area, walk-in closet, and a bathroom with a tub big enough to swim in. "Your things have been unpacked and put away," Maria said. "If the arrangement is not to your liking, please let me know and I will adjust it." "It is fine," I said quietly. "Thank you." After she left, I stood in the middle of the room, taking it all in. This was my life now, this gilded cage. I moved to the window and looked out over the grounds. Even in the darkness, I could see the high walls surrounding the property, the security cameras, the guards patrolling. A prison, no matter how beautiful. A knock at the door made me jump. "Come in," I called, expecting Maria. Instead, Dante entered, still in his wedding suit though he had removed his tie, and unbuttoned the top buttons of his shirt. He looked tired, I realized, the hard lines of his face more pronounced. "We need to establish some ground rules," he said, closing the door behind him. I crossed my arms defensively. "Go ahead." He moved further into the room, his presence making the spacious suite feel suddenly smaller. "This marriage is real, Isabella. In the eyes of the law, the church, my associates. You are my wife, in name only," I shot back. His eyes narrowed. "For now. But there will be expectations. You will attend functions with me. You will be respectful when we are in public. You will not embarrass me or undermine my authority. And in private?" I challenged. "In private," he said, moving closer. "We will figure out how to coexist. I am not a patient man, Isabella, but I am willing to give you time to adjust." "How generous of you," I said bitterly. "More generous than you know." His voice dropped lower. "There are men in my position who would not wait, who would consider you their property in every sense of the word." The implication made my skin crawl. "And you are not one of those men?" "I am many things," he replied, "but I do not force myself on unwilling women. When you come to my bed, Isabella, it will be because you choose to." I laughed, a harsh sound. "That will never happen. Never is a long time," he said softly. "We will see." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "There is something else you should know. Your father's debt is forgiven. I had the paperwork drawn up today. Your family is safe. Despite everything, relief washed through me. At least there was that. At least my father would not end up in the river like Marco." "Thank you," I said grudgingly. Dante's smile was cold. "Do not thank me, Isabella. I did not do it for your father. I did it for you, so you would understand that I keep my promises. Remember that." After he left, I sank onto the bed, my wedding dress billowing around me like a cloud. I was married to a man I hated, a man who terrified me, A man who looked at me like I was his possession. I pulled off the wedding ring and stared at it, the diamonds catching the light. This was my life now, and I had no idea how I was going to survive it. If you are enjoying this story of Isabella and Dante, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There is so much more to come, and you will not want to miss what happens next, when Isabella discovers the truth about her new husband. The first week of my marriage to Dante Moretti was a study in avoidance. I kept to my wing of the mansion, emerging only for meals when absolutely necessary. Maria was kind, bringing me breakfast in my room and making sure I had everything I needed. But even her warmth could not penetrate the ice that had settled around my heart. Dante was often absent, leaving early in the morning and returning late at night. When we did cross paths, our interactions were brief and cold. He would nod in acknowledgement, ask if I needed anything, and disappear back into whatever dark business consumed his days. On the 8th day, I woke to find a note slipped under my door. Written in a bold, masculine hand, it simply said, "Join me for dinner tonight. 8 o'clock. The library." It was not a request. I considered refusing. What could he do? Drag me there? But I was tired of hiding in my room like a prisoner. If I was going to survive this marriage, I needed to establish some sort of relationship with my husband, even if it was just civil coexistence. At 8 o'clock, I made my way to the library, a room I had not yet explored. It was exactly what I would have expected. Walls lined with books, leather furniture, a fireplace crackling with warmth, and Dante, standing by the window with a glass of whiskey in his hand, looking out at the darkened grounds. He turned when I entered, his eyes sweeping over me in assessment. I had chosen my outfit carefully, a simple black dress that was elegant but not provocative, my hair pulled back in a low bun. "Isabella," he said, "thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" I replied. A slight smile touched his lips. "Always a choice, though I am glad you chose to join me." A table had been set near the fireplace, intimate and warm. Dante pulled out a chair for me, and after a moment's hesitation, I sat. He took the seat across from me, and Maria appeared with the first course. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The only sound, the crackling of the fire and the clink of silverware against china. The food was excellent, but I could barely taste it, too aware of Dante's presence across from me. "You have been avoiding me," he said finally. "I have been adjusting," I corrected. "By hiding in your room?" I met his eyes. "What do you want from me, Dante? You got what you wanted. A wife to parade in front of your associates. Someone to make you look respectable. Why does it matter if I spend time with you?" He set down his fork, his full attention on me now. "It matters because this is not the life I want either." The admission surprised me. "What do you mean?" He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "Do you know why I agreed to this arrangement, Isabella? Why I offered to marry you instead of simply killing your father? Because you needed a wife for appearances, I guessed." His laugh was bitter. "I could have had my pick of women, daughters of other families, women who understand this world, who would have come willingly. Then why me?" "Because you had no choice," he said bluntly. "Because you would hate me, and have no illusions about what this marriage is. Because I did not want someone who would try to love me, or change me, or make this into something it cannot be." The honesty was brutal. I stared at him, trying to understand. "You wanted a wife who would hate you?" "I wanted honesty," he replied. "Everyone else in my life lies. They tell me what they think I want to hear. They smile and nod and hide their true feelings. But you, Isabella, you wear your hatred openly. It is refreshing." "You are insane," I said. "Perhaps," he agreed. "But I am also honest with you. Can you say the same about the people in your old life? Did they tell you the truth about your father's gambling? About the danger you were in?" He had a point, much as I hated to admit it. My father had hidden his addiction for years, my mother enabling him. Even my friends had known things were bad, but had said nothing. "What do you want from me?" I asked again, softer this time. Dante refilled his whiskey glass, then poured one for me without asking. "I want what I said on our wedding night, respect in public. In private," he paused. "I want you to stop looking at me like I am a monster." "You are a monster," I replied. "You kill people. You run criminal enterprises. You forced me into this marriage." "I have killed people," he admitted. "Men who tried to kill me or my family. Men who broke sacred oaths. As for criminal enterprises, yes. I run businesses that operate outside the law, but I also employ hundreds of people. I protect this neighborhood. I keep the peace between the families. That does not make you noble," I said. "No," he agreed, "but it does not make me a monster either. I am a man doing what I must to survive in a world I was born into, not one I chose. You could choose to leave," I pointed out. His laugh was harsh. Leave? And go where? Do what? This life, this family, it is all I have ever known. My father ran these operations before me, his father before him. It is my legacy, my responsibility, and now it is mine too, I said bitterly, whether I want it or not. Yes, he said simply, whether you want it or not. We finished the meal in heavy silence. Maria cleared the plates and brought dessert, a delicate tiramisu that I picked at without enthusiasm. I have been thinking, Dante said as we ate, about your education. What about it? You were studying art history at Columbia. You were close to finishing your degree. How do you know that? I demanded. I know everything about you, Isabella. He said it as a simple fact, not a threat. I know you were in your final year. I know your thesis was on Caravaggio. I know you had planned to apply for curator positions at museums after graduation. The casual invasion of my privacy should have angered me more, but I was too surprised by what came next. I want you to finish your degree, he said. I stared at him. What? Your education. It is important to you. There is no reason you cannot complete it. I have spoken to the university. They are willing to arrange for you to finish your coursework remotely, with some in-person sessions that can be accommodated with security. Why would you do that? I asked suspiciously. Because an unhappy wife is a liability, he replied, and because you deserve to finish what you started. Your father took many things from you. He should not take your future as well. I did not know what to say. This was the last thing I had expected from the ruthless viper. An act of, what? Kindness? Manipulation? Both? There is a condition, Dante added, and there it was. Of course there was a condition. What? I asked warily. You will have security with you at all times. My men will accompany you to classes, to the library, anywhere you go. This is not negotiable, because you do not trust me not to run, because I have enemies who would love to hurt me by taking my wife, he corrected. You are a target now, Isabella, whether you like it or not. The reality of that settled over me like a weight. I had not thought about it before, too consumed with my own resentment. But he was right. By marrying Dante Moretti, I had painted a target on my own back. I will think about it, I said finally. Do not think too long, he replied. The semester is already underway. If you want to graduate on time, you need to start soon. After dinner, Dante walked me back to my wing of the house. It was a strangely domestic gesture, his hand light on the small of my back as we climbed the stairs. At my door, he paused. Thank you for joining me tonight. You commanded it, I reminded him. And yet you came, he replied. That means something. Before I could respond, he leaned in and pressed a kiss to my forehead, gentle and unexpected. Sleep well, Isabella. I watched him walk away, my fingers touching the spot where his lips had been. I was so confused. This man, this dangerous, ruthless criminal, was showing me more consideration than my own father ever had, and I did not know what to do with that. Over the next few weeks, a strange routine developed. Dante was still gone most days, but he made a point of having dinner with me several times a week. We talked, careful conversations that stayed away from dangerous topics. He asked about my studies. I had accepted his offer and was working on my thesis, and he told me about his childhood, growing up in this world of violence and loyalty. I learned that he had been only 15 when his father was killed in a war between families, that he had been forced to step up, to become the Viper, to be ruthless and cold, because showing weakness meant death, that his mother had died of cancer when he was 12, and he still visited her grave every Sunday. The man I was getting to know was nothing like the monster I had imagined. He was complicated, yes, dangerous, absolutely, but also intelligent, surprisingly funny when he let his guard down, and more considerate than any man I had dated before this forced marriage. It terrified me how easily I found myself softening toward him. One evening, about 6 weeks into our marriage, I was working in the library when Dante came home earlier than usual. He looked exhausted, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. Rough day? I asked before I could stop myself. He poured himself a drink and sank into the chair across from me. You could say that. One of my business partners decided loyalty was optional. It did not end well for him. The casual mention of violence should have chilled me. Instead, I found myself asking, "Are you all right?" Dante looked up, surprise clear on his face. "You care?" I hesitated. "I do not know. Maybe. You are my husband. I suppose I should care if you are all right." His smile was slow and devastating. "Careful, Isabella. You almost sound like a real wife. Do not read too much into it," I replied, but my cheeks heated. "I am just being civil." He stood and moved to the bookshelf, pulling out a volume I recognized. "Caravaggio," he said, reading the spine. "Your favorite artist. How did you know that?" Your thesis, remember? He opened the book, flipping through the reproductions. Why him? Why not Michelangelo or Da Vinci? I set aside my own work and went to stand beside him, looking at the painting he had stopped on. The Calling of St. Matthew. Because he painted truth, I said. Look at this. The divine light breaking into a world of shadows. The way Matthew is caught between his old life and his calling. Caravaggio did not shy away from darkness. He showed that grace can find us even in our worst moments. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying the painting. Is that what you believe? That grace can find us in darkness? I used to, I admitted, before all this. Now I do not know what I believe. He closed the book and turned to face me. We were standing close, closer than I had realized. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheek. Isabella, he said softly, I know you hate this marriage, hate me, but I want you to know, you are not just an obligation to me. You are, he paused, searching for words. You are the first real thing in my life in a very long time. My heart was pounding. I should step back, put distance between us, but I did not move. Dante, I whispered. Tell me to stop, he said, his face moving closer to mine. Tell me you do not want this, and I will walk away. But I could not say the words, because somewhere in the past weeks, something had shifted. The hatred had not disappeared entirely, but it had been joined by something else. Curiosity, attraction, maybe even the beginnings of trust. When his lips met mine, it was nothing like our wedding kiss. This was gentle, questioning, giving me every opportunity to pull away, but I did not. Instead, I found myself leaning into him, my hands coming up to rest on his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath my palms. The kiss deepened, and I felt something crack open inside me. All the walls I had built, all the hatred and resentment, it was still there. But now there was something else too, something warm and dangerous and utterly terrifying. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against mine. I have wanted to do that for weeks, he admitted. I should not want you to, I replied. You are everything I should hate, but you do not. It was not a question. No, I admitted. I do not. Not anymore. And I do not know what that makes me. Human, Dante said. It makes you human, Isabella. That night marked a turning point. We did not suddenly become a normal married couple. The barriers between us did not magically disappear, but something had changed. We talked more, laughed more. He showed me parts of his world that were not violent or dangerous. The legitimate businesses he ran, the charities his family supported, the people who depended on him for more than just protection. And slowly, terrifyingly, I felt myself falling for him. 3 months into our marriage, Dante asked me to accompany him to a charity gala, not as an obligation, but because he wanted me there. I wore a red dress that made me feel beautiful, and when I walked down the stairs to meet him, the look in his eyes made my breath catch. You are stunning, he said, offering his arm. The gala was everything I expected. Wealthy people, expensive champagne, an auction for various causes, but it was also surprising. I watched Dante be charming and gracious, saw the respect people showed him that was not born of fear, saw him bid ridiculous amounts of money for art pieces and education programs. During the dancing, he pulled me close, his hand warm on my waist. Having fun? He asked. Surprisingly, yes, I admitted. Though I still cannot believe you paid $20,000 for that painting. It is for a good cause, he said. And besides, you liked it. I saw your face when they unveiled it. You bought it because I liked it? Why else? He spun me gently. Everything I have is yours, Isabella. Everything I am is yours. The declaration should have felt like another chain. Instead, it felt like freedom. We were leaving the gala, walking to the car, when everything went wrong. I did not see the man approaching, did not register the danger until Dante shoved me behind him, and I heard the gunshot. Time seemed to slow. Dante's security team swarmed, returning fire. People screamed and ran, and Dante, my husband, the man I had started to love, crumpled to the ground. No, I screamed, dropping beside him. Blood bloomed across his white shirt, spreading rapidly. No, no, no. His hand found mine, his grip surprisingly strong. Isabella, he gasped. You need to go. Get inside. Let Marco protect you. I am not leaving you, I said, tears streaming down my face. Do you hear me? I am not leaving. Stubborn woman, he managed, a ghost of a smile on his lips. Always so stubborn. The ambulance arrived. The hospital. Surgery. I sat in the waiting room, covered in Dante's blood, refusing to leave or change clothes or accept comfort from anyone. Maria came, Dante's grandmother Lucia, his cousin Marco who ran security. They all tried to get me to rest, to eat, to have faith, but all I could see was Dante falling. All I could feel was his blood on my hands. 8 hours later, a surgeon emerged. Mr. Moretti is out of surgery. The bullet missed all major organs. He was very lucky. He is stable, but the next 24 hours are critical. Can I see him? I asked. The surgeon nodded. He is in recovery. But yes, you can see him. Dante looked so different hooked up to machines, his face pale against the white sheets. I pulled a chair close to his bed and took his hand. Careful of the IV. You idiot, I whispered. You absolute idiot. Taking a bullet for me. His eyes fluttered open, hazy with medication. Isabella, he murmured. You are safe. Of course I am safe. You threw yourself in front of me, I said, tears falling again. Why would you do that? Because I love you, he said simply. I have loved you since you walked down that aisle hating me. Since you fought me at every turn. Since you made me want to be better than I am. His eyes drifted closed again, the medication pulling him under. But his words echoed in my mind. He loved me. Dante Moretti, the Viper, the ruthless crime boss, loved me. And somewhere along the way, I had fallen in love with him too. The realization should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like coming home. If you have been captivated by Isabella and Dante's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. The best is yet to come, and you will not want to miss how their love story unfolds in the face of danger and betrayal. Dante's recovery was slow but steady. The doctors kept him in the hospital for a week, and I never left his side. I slept in the chair next to his bed, ate when Maria brought food, and held his hand through the worst of the pain. On the third day, when he was more alert, he looked at me with clear eyes. You should go home. Get rest in a proper bed. I am not leaving you, I replied. The same words I had said when he had been shot. Isabella, he started. No, I interrupted. You took a bullet for me, Dante. The least I can do is sit with you while you heal. His hand squeezed mine. I would take 1,000 bullets for you. Let us hope it does not come to that, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Once was quite enough. We talked during those long hospital days. Really talked. About everything. Our fears, our hopes, the life we might build together, if we could survive the dangers that came with his world. Dante told me about the men who had tried to kill him, a rival family who saw him as a threat. He also told me about the steps he was taking to end the violence, to transition his operations into more legitimate businesses. I am tired of the blood, Isabella, he admitted. Tired of always looking over my shoulder. I want a life with you, a real life. Then make it happen, I said. You are the most powerful man I know. If anyone can change this world, it is you. When he was finally released from the hospital, the entire household erupted in relief. Maria had prepared his favorite foods. Lucia had blessed every room in the house. Marco had tripled security. But it was just me Dante wanted. He asked me to stay with him that night, in his room, just to hold him while he slept. And I agreed. Lying in his bed, wrapped in his arms despite his injuries, I felt safer than I had in months. This was where I belonged. Not because I had been forced into it, but because I had chosen it, chosen him. Dante, I whispered in the darkness. I love you. I felt him tense, then relax. Say it again, he breathed. I love you, I repeated. I do not know when it happened or how, but I do. I love you, Dante Moretti. He tilted my face up to his, kissing me with a tenderness that made my heart ache. I never thought I would hear you say those words, he said. I never dared hope. The next few months were the happiest of my life. Dante slowly healed, and our marriage transformed into something real and beautiful. He showed me every part of his world, introducing me to the people who mattered to him, involving me in his decisions. I finished my thesis and graduated with honors. Dante was there in the audience, pride clear on his face, along with Maria and Lucia and half his organization. It should have been ridiculous. A crime family celebrating an art history degree. But it was perfect. We traveled to Italy for our honeymoon, a real one this time. We walked through Florence and Rome, and I showed him the art I loved, while he showed me the places his family had come from. We made love under the Tuscan sun and talked about the future, about children we might have one day, about the life we were building together. But the past has a way of catching up with you. We had been married for almost a year when my father reached out. I had not spoken to him since the wedding, had refused all his attempts to contact me, but he was persistent, and finally, I agreed to meet him for coffee. Bella, he said when I arrived, standing awkwardly. You look good, happy. I am, I replied, sitting across from him. What do you want, Dad? He looked older, worn down by guilt and regret. I want to apologize. For everything. For the gambling, for the debt, for forcing you into that marriage. You did not force me, I corrected. I chose to marry Dante to save your life. There is a difference, and I will spend the rest of my life regretting that you had to make that choice, he said. But Bella, I need you to know, I have changed. I have been going to meetings, gambling anonymous. I have been sober for 10 months now. That is good, I said carefully. I am happy for you. I want to make things right, he continued. Between us, you are my daughter, my only child. I hate that I have lost you. You have not lost me, I said softly, but things cannot go back to the way they were. Too much has happened. I know, he nodded. But maybe we could start over, build something new. I thought about it, about the hate I had carried for so long. It was exhausting, holding on to that anger. And Dante had taught me that people could change, could grow beyond their worst mistakes. Okay, I said finally. We can try. My father's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Bella. Thank you. When I told Dante about the meeting later that night, he listened quietly. How do you feel about it? He asked. Hopeful, I admitted. Maybe a little scared, but I think it is the right thing to do. Then I support you, he said, pulling me into his arms. But he will be watched. If he falls back into old habits, if he puts you in danger again, the consequences will be severe. I know, I said. And I think he knows that too. The holidays came, and for the first time, I felt like I had a real family. Dante's grandmother hosted Christmas dinner, a huge affair with more food than 20 people could possibly eat. I sat at the table surrounded by Moretti cousins and associates and friends, Dante's hand warm in mine, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This life I had not chosen had given me everything I had never known I wanted. A partner who respected me, challenged me, loved me fiercely. A family who had welcomed me without question. A purpose beyond just surviving. On New Year's Eve, Dante surprised me with a gift. He led me to a wing of the house I had not explored, opening the doors to reveal a stunning art studio. Floor-to-ceiling windows, professional lighting, every supply I could possibly need. I know you miss painting, he said. I thought you might want your own space to work. I walked through the room, touching the easels, the paints, the blank canvases waiting to be filled. It was perfect. Dante, I breathed. I do not have words. You do not need words, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Your happiness is enough. I turned in his arms, kissing him deeply. How did I get so lucky? Lucky? He laughed. You hated me 6 months ago. Best decision I ever made, I replied. Hating you. His smile was soft. And falling in love with me? Even better, I whispered. As the clock struck midnight and fireworks exploded over the city, I stood on the balcony in Dante's arms and thought about the year that had passed. The terror of our wedding day felt like a lifetime ago. That frightened girl in the cathedral, certain her life was over, had no idea that it was really just beginning. Dante, I said softly, thank you. For what? For being patient with me, for giving me time to see past the fear, for becoming someone I could love. He kissed the top of my head. Thank you for giving me a chance, for seeing the man beneath the monster. You were never a monster, I said. You were just a man doing what he had to do to survive, and now you are a man choosing to be better. Because of you, he replied. Everything good in my life is because of you, Isabella. The new year brought new challenges. Dante was working hard to legitimize his operations, which meant pushing back against old allies who preferred the criminal ways. There were threats, attempts to undermine him, pressure from all sides. But we faced it together. I attended meetings with him, offered my perspective, used my education and skills to help him navigate the legal business world. Slowly, painfully, the Moretti Empire transformed. It was not perfect. There were still moments of violence, threats we had to take seriously, days when I feared for Dante's safety. But we built something strong together, a partnership based on love and trust and mutual respect. 2 years after our wedding, I stood in front of a mirror again, wearing white. But this time, it was not a wedding dress. It was a simple sundress, and my hand rested on the gentle swell of my belly. Dante came up behind me, his hands covering mine over our unborn child. How are you feeling? He asked. Nervous, I admitted. Excited, terrified. He turned me to face him. You are going to be an amazing mother, and you are going to be an amazing father, I replied. Our daughter is very lucky. We had found out 2 weeks ago that we were having a girl. Dante had cried when the doctor told us, actual tears streaming down the face of the man they called the Viper. What should we name her? He asked now, as he did every day. I have been thinking about that, I said. What about Grace? Grace? He repeated, testing the name. Why Grace? I thought back to that conversation in the library, talking about Caravaggio. Because grace can find us even in our darkest moments, I said. Because that is what you were for me, Dante. My grace in the darkness. His kiss was tender, reverent. Grace Moretti, he said. Perfect. That evening, we hosted a dinner to announce the pregnancy to the family. Lucia wept with joy, already planning to knit blankets and sweaters. Maria started making lists of things the baby would need. Even my father, who had maintained his sobriety and slowly rebuilt our relationship, teared up at the news of becoming a grandfather. As I watched Dante laugh with his cousins, one hand resting protectively on my stomach, I marveled at how much had changed. How a marriage that had begun in hatred and fear had transformed into the greatest love of my life. Later that night, lying in bed with Dante, his hand gentle on my belly as we felt our daughter move, I thought about the girl I had been, the one who had stood in that cathedral certain her life was ending. I wish I could tell her the truth, that her life was not ending. It was beginning, that the monster she feared would become the love of her life, that the prison she imagined would become her home. What are you thinking about? Dante asked, his voice sleepy. About how wrong I was about you, I admitted. About how close I came to missing all of this because I was too afraid to see who you really were. You were not wrong to be afraid, he said. I was not a good man when we met. Isabella, I am still not, in many ways. You are my man, I replied. And that is all that matters. He pulled me closer, mindful of my growing belly. I love you, Isabella Moretti, more than I thought I could ever love anyone. I love you too, I whispered, my ruthless, dangerous, wonderful husband. Our daughter was born on a rainy April morning, arriving 3 weeks early and announcing her presence with lusty cries that filled the delivery room. Dante cut the cord with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face as he held our tiny daughter for the first time. She is perfect, he breathed, looking down at Grace with such love it made my heart ache. Absolutely perfect. Over the next months, I watched the fearsome viper transform into the softest father imaginable. He changed diapers, walked the floors at 2 a.m, singing Italian lullabies, and refused to let anyone else hold Grace unless absolutely necessary. Look at the mighty Dante Moretti, his cousin Marco teased one afternoon, finding Dante napping with Grace sleeping on his chest, brought down by a 7-pound baby. Best defeat of my life, Dante replied, his hand protective on Grace's back. Motherhood was everything I had hoped and more. Hard, exhausting, but filled with so much love I sometimes felt my heart might burst. And doing it with Dante, seeing him as a father, loving our daughter with every fiber of his being, made me fall in love with him all over again every single day. On our 3rd wedding anniversary, Dante surprised me with a gallery showing. He had been secretly working with a local museum, and they had agreed to exhibit my paintings, a series I had done about light and shadow, love and redemption, inspired by Caravaggio and my own journey. The opening was packed with people, critics and collectors and friends, but I only had eyes for Dante. Standing beside me, his hand in mine, pride radiating from every inch of him. You did this for me, I said, squeezing his hand. You did this yourself, he corrected. I just made some phone calls. The talent, the vision, the work, that was all you. That night, after we had returned home and checked on Grace, sleeping peacefully in her nursery, we stood on the balcony looking out over the grounds. The same balcony where I had once plotted my escape, had seen only prison walls. Now I saw home. Do you remember our wedding day? I asked Dante. Every second of it, he replied. You looked at me like you wanted me dead. I did want you dead, I admitted with a laugh. I hated you so much. And now, I turned to face him, cupping his face in my hands. Now I cannot imagine my life without you. You are my best friend, my partner, the father of my child. You are everything I never knew I needed. His kiss was deep and sweet and full of promise. And you, Isabella, are the reason I breathe, the reason I became a better man, the reason I believe in grace. We stood there in the moonlight, wrapped in each other's arms, and I thought about the journey we had taken, from hatred to love, from strangers to soulmates, from a forced marriage to a chosen forever. It had not been easy. There had been pain and fear and moments when I thought I could not go on, but we had fought for this, for each other, for the life we wanted to build. And in the end, the ruthless Mafia boss and the bride who hated him had found something neither had been looking for, but both desperately needed. Love. Real, deep, transformative love. The kind that changes everything. The kind worth fighting for. Years later, I would stand in this same spot with Grace, now 5 years old and curious about everything, and her little brother Marco, named for Dante's cousin who had become his closest friend. I would tell them the story of how their father and I met, leaving out the darker details but keeping the truth that matters most. That love can find you in the most unexpected places, that people can change, that grace exists, even in the darkest moments, that sometimes the person you think you hate the most can become the person you love the most. And when Dante would join us, scooping up our children with easy affection, kissing me like he still could not quite believe I was real, I would thank whatever force had brought us together, thank my father's terrible choices that had led to our arranged marriage, thank my own stubborn heart that had refused to settle for hatred when love was possible. Thank Dante for being patient enough to let me find my way to him. Our love story was not conventional. It was not easy, but it was ours, and I would not change a single moment of it. Not the fear, not the hatred, not the pain, because all of it had led us here, to this life, this love, this family, to everything I had never dared to dream of, to home, the ruthless Mafia boss and his reluctant bride. Who would have thought we would end up here, madly, desperately, eternally in love? But that is exactly where we are, and exactly where we will stay, forever.